Hi there, folks. You are listening to pixelprojectradio, a video game discussions and analysis podcast. I am Rick, speaking to you now. I'm the host of pixelprojectradio, and one of my favorite things about listening to podcasts, reading essays from authors that I really like, or otherwise hearing creative and artist types talk, is learning a little bit more about them and their tastes. So to that end, when I saw another one of those classic templates floating around on the internet, have you been there? On Blue Sky, one of those about me, video games. It's got to have a colon if it's a good title. I thought that would be a cool thing to put onto the show in an audio format and let the listeners get to know me a little bit better. There are about 20 categories on here, so not every single entry is going to be spoken about at length, and it's not going to be a deep dive analysis either. These are just candid, straight from the heart takes, not entirely over-intellectualized, highlighting some games and works that I think fit each category. Some categories I might mention more than one as well, because it is near impossible to pick in some of these. So before we begin, if you're new to the show, please consider checking out our catalog if you're interested in hearing discussions on games focused around analysis at a critical level, where both my rotating cadre of co-hosts and I do our best to balance intelligent and considered thought with some humor here or there. Consider checking out what we have on offer. We've done episodes analyzing the themes and motifs in Pentiment, the full story of Clair Obscur and Final Fantasy Tactics. Both of those were over 4 episodes if memory serves. Night in the Woods, Lisa the Painful, and even non-story-based games too, like Super Mario Galaxy and several fighting games. You can check all of that out in the podcast feed. If you like the show, feel free to subscribe. If you really like the work, consider leaving a rating and/or a review on your platform of choice. Right then, now, let's get started. We're going to start with the first category, game everyone should play. Now, this one is tricky. There are so many games, and tastes are going to vary significantly between people. This is as difficult as suggesting one film or one album, one symphony, one book that anybody should read. It's such a terribly difficult thing. And more often than not, the implications here are more about the tastes of the person answering than it is about the actual recommendation itself. I think my answer here is a little bit balanced. It says a lot about me, and honestly, I think it is highlighting the one perfect game to exist, if such a thing can be, and that's Tetris. Specifically, though, Tetris Effect Connected. And longtime listeners to the show will notice, but just to say it, since there are so many games on this list and I'm not looking to make a 4-hour episode, I'm not going to be splicing in music for every single game. I might do it for 1 or 2 tracks though. I played Tetris Effect for the first time either in 2023 or 24, I can't quite remember, and I was not expecting to come out the other end feeling so touched by what is functionally a new skin on Tetris. Tetris itself, I think, works perfectly in this category. It's one of the few games that I can think of that can neither be added to nor subtracted from to make an experience that is subjectively, objectively, however you'd like to look at it, better. It's a compelling game, it's a very simple game, and it plays on human beings' patterns of recognition and our desire to seek these patterns and to find order. So much so, there's a whole phenomenon in psychology called the Tetris effect that was not only named after the game, but was, I don't know if discovered is the right term, but it was a key, Tetris, the game was a key component in the findings. To that end, I think Tetris is an excellent choice. The reason I chose Tetris Effect Connected specifically, though, is partly because it's the favorite iteration of Tetris that I've played, but also because it adds a dimension to Tetris, that of artistry, that you might not expect from a simple puzzle game that folks have been playing since the DOS days, Atari, what have you. It plays mostly the same as Tetris. There are some power-ups and updates that came in later iterations, like saving a block. There is a time freeze ability that's pretty cool. I can't quite remember exactly how you activate that. But all the while, each stage of Tetris Effect is beset by visualization and music cues, and they're interactive as well. The music cues change slightly whenever you rotate your blocks or whenever you drop your tetraminos down to the floor, get a Tetris, clear some floors. They're not specifically cued and composed in that way, but each movement you make is going to add to the soundscape. And it's all very holistic. It's not grating or antagonistic or at odds with the sound being produced by the music. It all sort of works in a bit of harmony together, if you'll forgive the pun. And in a very small way, it makes you feel as if you're contributing to the score yourself, contributing to this work, becoming a part of it. The visuals are a huge part too. They're not visuals insofar as animations like cartoons or paintings, static images. They're very abstract often, and they shift and change. They don't so much as give you a theme to consider so much as they evoke vague feelings. And in a lot of ways, I think that's very cool. It gets you to begin thinking about ideas of connectedness and togetherness and things of that nature. Some of them are even more bustling. There's a whole quasi-jazz one that's set in a city. You can hear car traffic honking, things like that. And it's not only just a very cool vibe, but it puts you in this hypnotic space where you can sort of play the game automatically while you're thinking about those ideas, the idea of connection, the idea of the music being played, the lyrics if there are any. Some have them, some don't. And I'm not trying to suggest that every stage is trying to evoke a theme. It's certainly not it. It's not that kind of game. But the fact that it can make you do that, even if it's just through a sort of implicit suggestion of the title, I think is a very cool thing. It all works together comprehensively very well. Once you're in that hypnotic state and you're zoning out to the music, you're being engulfed by the visuals, it's almost as if the center of the screen, the Tetris itself, becomes the periphery, and everything else is the experience. Absolutely wild, and I can't recommend it enough. If you've never played Tetris Effect, wholeheartedly recommend. It's terrific. Next up, we've got a nostalgic childhood game, and for this, I'm choosing one from the Sega Saturn, my first ever game console, and that is Clockwork Knight. Before starting this podcast, I had never met a single other person who had played Clockwork Knight, let alone heard of it. I didn't even know anybody that owned a Sega Saturn. I thought it was just a me thing, largely up until like high school and college. I had friends that had the Genesis, I had friends that had the NES and SNES, and of course, we grew up in the PlayStation era, N64, so I knew loads of people who had those systems. But Sega Saturn was always a bit of an anomaly. Nobody else knew what I was talking about whenever I mentioned Sonic 3D Blast, or Fighters Megamix, Virtua Fighter. Remember too, I grew up in quite a small rural area. Clockwork Knight is one of the two games, along with Sonic 3D Blast, that always transports me back to my hometown, to my childhood home in my parents' bedroom where the Sega Saturn was hooked up onto their small CRT on their dresser. And even now, just talking about it, I can hear the music of that opening level. The rollicking piano, the harmonica that comes in to blow a solo over the changes, the quasi-saxophone patch that comes in, that is perhaps on a different track. The first boss battle being this very stern, almost foreboding tango, or perhaps flamenco would be a better word for it. It has that classic sort of almost cliched flamenco chord progression. It grabs me and immediately puts me back into that mindset. And it's a fun game, too. I revisited it a little bit before recording this episode, and I played through it entirely, I want to say 3 years ago or so. It definitely holds up. It's not going to blow any minds. I mean, it's not punching up toward Super Mario 64 or even Crash Bandicoot or Spyro, but it's far from a bad game. It controls fairly well. The physics feel really nice. Clockwork Knight, the man himself, his name is Pepperochow, I believe. He is this little toy knight in golden armor and a nice big mustache. He runs fairly quickly. He can stop on a dime. Well, he can stop and skid. You get the cartoon effect of the flame coming off of his heels and the smoke coming off of them as well. He's got a spring in his step, you could say, literally and metaphorically. And you fight with a key. This is the Tetsuya Nomura Kingdom Hearts Extended Universe. He fights with this key where you can either pop enemies like balloons or sort of hit them, wind them up, and then make them pop. It was never clear to me why they were popping. I don't think they actually are balloons. They look like other toys. And that's part of this whole thing, too. This is sort of, I guess it's also in the Toy Story Extended Universe. The first entire area takes place in the bedroom of the child to whom the toys belong. So you're running across bookshelves, you're seeing these robot action figures push books down to try and squash you. The first boss battle I mentioned with the flamenco sort of music is against this very creepy, unnerving baby doll that wears a tuxedo and for some reason is very realistic looking and has a purple face. It's creepy in the same way that that classic Nick cartoon Angela Anaconda was creepy, for those of you that remember that. Just not quite uncanny, but too realistic for the animation that you're seeing on screen. It's a fairly short game, too. It's unfortunate that it is the length that it is and doesn't have a save feature. It's not that the Saturn couldn't handle it, they just didn't put one in. So if you're going to play this game, I would maybe recommend emulation if you don't want to sit down and play the whole thing straight through. And even if you do, it's not egregiously long. It's perhaps 3 to 4.5 hours, maybe. I don't think it's 5 or more. It's fairly short, and I guess that depends on how much you want to explore and how good you are at platforming or whatever. It's a 2D platformer, by the way, but perhaps more appropriately titled a 2.5D platformer. It's one of those where everything has depth to it, but you're only moving on a 2D plane. As far as I can remember, it's not quite like Tomba, where you can actually go into the foreground and the background, but it still gives that look, and it looks really good. It has that special sort of quaintness that comes from the Sega Saturn in this era, of all of those, I guess primitive, it feels a little too derogatory, but those polygons that are clearly not state-of-the-art anymore, but still can look very good even if it's on an emulated LCD screen, even if you don't have a CRT. Although, if you do, it looks terrific there as well. Of course it does. It's not overly challenging, it's not too long, it's very cute, it's very vibrantly colored, the music is very, very energetic and driving and upbeat. It's not that Sega Sound Team seriousness that you get from Virtua Fighter or any of those slap and bass driving guitars sort of rock, J-pop, city pop influenced and adjacent things. But it is good fun. I can't even think about it without being immediately drawn back. Definitely recommend it if you haven't played it before. And we're on to the first of these that are titled Best Retro Game. Now, of course, the caveat here is that I don't find best to be a meaningful descriptor. Again, at best, it is more of an indication of my tastes and me as a person, as a game player. That's how these typically function, and I don't think value judgments like best or worst really hold a lot of interest, at least not to me. All that to say, in a lot of these that say best, you can just substitute in one of my favorites. The game that I'm about to talk about isn't necessarily my favorite, but it is one of them. And moving forward, there are so many that I could have inserted for several of these. So whenever in the future you're listening to this, just know that my opinions could have changed. I could have just not talked about something else that was well-deserving, etc., etc. So for this category, for the best retro game, I've chosen Donkey Kong 94 for the Game Boy. Along with the Sega Saturn, the Game Boy was also one of my first ever consoles. I never had the big fat DMG, but I did have a Game Boy Pocket, and later a Game Boy Color, Advance, SP, all of that good stuff. And I remember playing so much Donkey Kong 94 on my green little Game Boy Pocket. Love that color green to this day, that sort of muted green, but not too light, like what would it be, sage? But not quite as dark as emerald green, maybe forest green, I don't know. Great color, look it up. Anyway, as a kid, I didn't love this game all that much. I liked it okay, and I would play it whenever I got bored of Super Mario Land 2 and 3, with 3 being Wario Land. It kind of occupied the same category in my brain as the Game Boy Game & Watch collections, which I also had and liked quite a bit. I would play them whenever I was bored of Pokemon and of Donkey Kong Land, of the ones that I considered the best ones. But as an adult, I can see Donkey Kong 94 for what it is, a very forward-thinking game. You would be hard-pressed to play this game and not see the DNA of Super Mario 64 on full display. The movement expression in this game, on the Game Boy in 1994, is so much more than any other game that I've played of this time period. And I'm not professing to be an expert on the Game Boy or this time period. But for a simple little 2D game that is functionally get from point A to point B, the ways in which you do this approach borderline very creative. Each level you have to chase Donkey Kong to this door. He's kidnapped Pauline. I believe it's Pauline in this one. And then he takes her through this door, he squeezes through, he shakes his big fat monkey ass every time to get through the door, he locks it. You have to get the key in the level and take it up to the door to unlock it and chase him. The key is always going to be on a different side of the level than the actual door. So you not only have to grab it, but you have to take that key along with you and platform with and around it to get up to wherever the door happens to be. And it begins simple enough. You grab the key and you just do a few simple platforming jumps, and you get in, no problem. Through the loading screens, the game will give you little tips on how to progress. It'll show you new ways to move. It might show you that jumping and timing the A presses as you land will get you higher jumps. Again, Super Mario 64, but done in 1994 on the Game Boy. It might show you how crouching and then jumping will allow you to do a back handspring, or not a back handspring, a backward jump somersault. I'm not 100% sure on the gymnastics terms, if you can believe that. And that puts you into a handstand. With the handstand, you can carry the key if you manage to throw it up and then do that, catch it while it's in the air, you know. Additionally, hopping out of the handstand gets you a little bit of extra height as well. And this is in addition to all of the other things you can do. Not only can you pick up the key, you can pick up enemies. You'll be throwing the key onto certain enemies for them to move. Some enemies will cling to the wall, and if you throw the key onto them, they will take it up to a height that you could otherwise not get to, because your movement is hindered whenever you're holding the key, of course, as it is in real life. I think we can all agree to that. And compounding on that, there are even special power-ups that create ladders and a platform, not platforms, but sort of level ground. They let you place a horizontal piece of level ground, and it will play this little jingle. And until that jingle is over, you have a ladder and level ground on which you can run and walk and climb and jump. Most of the early levels that include these have positions that they basically need to be, but some of the later ones give you some flexibility, and you can choose to use them or not depending on how difficult you're finding it to get through the level and collect the various collectibles in each level to your taste. None of them are required. It's just for score, bragging rights, all of that sort of thing. Point is, for a Game Boy game, an original Game Boy game, not even color, advanced, nothing, coming out in '94 before the revolutionary Super Mario 64. It's just astounding. The palette that they give you, the movement palette, the number of arrows in your quiver, the ways you get to move through this world. It is simply fantastic. I didn't have to think twice about which best Game Boy game, best quote unquote, favorite Game Boy game, whatever you want to, however you want to label that. Whenever folks ask me, I always choose this one. Best retro game, I mean, what does that even mean? I also consider talking about Super Mario Bros. 3, which is a game that I think is just phenomenally designed. I think the physics in it are perfect. I love everything about that. Obviously, Pokemon Red and Blue. Well, for me, I would probably choose Gold and Silver, Gen 2, actually. But those original games are just stellar. Let's not even get into RPGs and JRPGs. We'll be here all day. But DK94 I wanted to choose because it isn't talked about as much as Pokemon and the earlier Mario games and Chrono Triggers and all of that. And if you haven't played it, absolutely give it a try. It has a remake on the Game Boy Advance as well that was, I think, a sequel on the Game Boy Advance that was then remade, I think, on Switch. Haven't played that one. But if it's anything like 94, I'm sure it's fantastic. Give it a go. Okay, next we've got Best with Friends, and I don't think this is going to be a controversial pick, so I don't know how much I'll need to talk about it. Super Smash Bros. Any Super Smash Bros. Any at all. Some of the most meaningful memories I have. And I'm talking all through life. Elementary school, middle school, high school, coming back from college, as recently as coming back from doing my DMA. Whether it was in the winter, summer vacation, weekends, when we didn't have school and didn't have family plans, weekdays where me and a friend happened to have off and we got together. Any number of times, any number of stages of life, Smash Brothers is always a good time, and it doesn't matter which iteration. Ultimate, personally, I will still maintain that Ultimate, to my tastes, is the best competitively and the best casually. It's the best of the two. I think I could see an argument of Melee being the better competitive game. I think a lot of the Melee community is insufferable, and is almost as toxic as the Tekken community. Wow. They're not all bad apples. There are just a lot of loud bad apples. Even 64 to this day is still a great time if you get together with the right people. That's a lot harder now that it is 2026. We are in a post-COVID world. We are adults. The internet has become the sort of de facto third place, to the point of it not even being a place anymore because of its ubiquity. And that's also the primary method through which I think most of us engage with our friends, at least as far as video games are concerned. So couch co-op doesn't happen nearly as often anymore, but when it does, what a special thing that can be. And I don't know if this is just a dude thing or what, but it always turned into, not always, but a lot of the time it turned into playing the game, and that was the vehicle through which we got to have discussions about what's going on in life. How's the relationship? How's the doctor visits going? Any bills you want to talk about? Like all of the important conversations that for whatever reason, a lot of guys just don't want to have if they're just sitting there chilling. Thankfully, I don't have a lot of friends like that. That seems to be a sort of dying breed of machoism. But when we're growing up in middle school and high school, obviously we don't have bills, or not as many doctor visits anyway, but that's still an opportunity to talk about that kind of thing. And there's always that implicit rule, that social contract, where if somebody's going through a hard time, even if you whoop their ass, you don't gloat about it. You only gloat about whooping their ass if it's agreed to be a competitive situation, or if you're the underdog, or if they're just on top of life. They just got a new job, girlfriend just proposed to them, then you whoop their ass and be like, take that, man. I don't have a lot going for me, but your Marth is nothing compared to me. Not that I would know. For what it's worth, my mains in Ultimate, I main Incineroar because I'm just at this time the best with him. I would love to be a Pichu main, but I just don't practice and play the game enough to actually get good. So Incineroar and Pac-Man are my two, Pichu and Mega Man if I'm feeling nasty. We're on to best multiplayer, and I mean, this one could have been Smash Brothers as well, but I wanted to talk about a game that I don't hear talked about next to ever, and it's called Ultimate Chicken Horse. If you've never seen this game, take a second to look it up on Steam or on YouTube. It kind of looks like a combination of construction paper and just regular sort of computer animation drawing. And what you do is you play as these animals. You got an elephant, skunk, squirrel, just animals, And the goal of the game is for everybody to get from the beginning of the level to the end. But the twist is that you want to create an environment where only you can get from the beginning to the end and not your friend. You want to make it so you can navigate it platforming-wise, but they can't hack it. And the way that you do this is every round begins, at the beginning of the round, obviously, and it ends when everybody dies, or dies/reaches the end. At first, everybody will die. They'll fall down the pit, they'll get hit by an obstacle, a fan blade, things like that. And that's it, then they're out. Between rounds, everybody participating gets to choose an obstacle of some sort. Now, these obstacles can be hazards, like fans that sort of propel you, spikes, missiles, things like that, or they can be platforms, they can be elevators, things that help you across the level. And you get to choose how much you want to risk screwing over your friends and risk your own skills getting you to the end. It's that sort of teetering of the scales. And it is a lot of fun. I've always been a huge fan of games that sort of let you screw your friends over in a good nature. Nothing too heinous or anything. Munchkin is a classic card game example that I don't think has been relevant since like 2013. But those are the exact kind of games I'm talking about that let you get a little bit silly and antagonistic towards your friends. But at the same time, it's all in good fun. This is a great little game, and I can't remember if it's couch co-op or not. It's definitely online multiplayer, and we've had a lot of fun doing that. A couch co-op game, I'll do a twofer here, that is perhaps my favorite lesser known co-op game of all time is called Heave Ho. I think it's actually published by Devolver Digital. I might be wrong on that, but don't quote me. It is, unfortunately, or at least the last I played, it was co-op only, but it's in a similar vein. You have to get to the end of a level. You're with your friends. It's more cooperative than Ultimate Chicken Horse, though there are plenty of opportunities to act like a little jerk and get your friends out of there just so you can get to the end. You play as these little Geodude looking dudes, and you just sort of each trigger controls a hand. You grip, you get to the end. It's a blast. Check both of them out: Ultimate Chicken Horse and Heave Ho. The next category is Turn My Brain Off, a game to turn my brain off to. And I admit, I don't have a lot of these. I don't really play games like that. I don't play them to zone out. I don't really go to video games to zone out. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and combine it with the next one, which is, quote, not usually my thing, but ... And I'm going to put that category together with Turn My Brain Off and say Rocket League. For folks who have been in the Pixel Project Radio Discord for any length of time over the past years, which you can join by checking out the episode description, by the way, it's free. These folks will know that I've had a contentious relationship with Rocket League over the years. There was a period of time where I practiced Rocket League every single day and played competitively. Well, as competitive as you can be, being a nobody that doesn't have hours and hours and hours to dedicate to the game each day like school children do. But I did, and the highest rank I ever achieved at the time was champ, and I was very proud of that. I started getting good at mechanics. I can still to this day consistently dribble. I can do several flicks. I can do very basic air dribbles if I get the proper setup, but not consistently. Rocket League is a deceptively difficult game. It is a rare instance of a game, very much like Smash Brothers actually, that is extraordinarily fun, regardless of whether you are good at it, have ever played before, play every single day, very competitive, or even in mixed company. It's still a lot of fun at least for me, I guess, to play with folks who have never played before. It's still a blast. It is, if you've never heard of it, it's just car soccer. You play in these cars. Cars can jump and flip and spin, and they've got rocket boosts on the end. Outside of that, it is a game of soccer. And what a great game it is. It's gone through a bunch of changes over the years. It's now a free game on Epic. You can't get it on Steam anymore. And you obviously can't buy it anymore unless you find one of those rare physical editions. And I'll be honest, these days I'm not really as into it anymore. But every now and then I still like to boot it up and give it a go. I say turn my brain off because at least now for the past couple of years, I don't really think too hard about it. Whenever I'm in there, I do the basic sports thinking, looking to see who's open, what areas of the field are covered versus open and free, where I could potentially pass to, or if it would be better to do a fake, dribble them out, those kinds of things. But I'm not actively thinking about angles. I'm not thinking about my mechanics. I'm not thinking about the best way to flick or do any of these advanced techniques to get a win. I'm just playing to have a good time. And I say not usually my thing because I do think it is, at its core, a sports game. It's probably, I don't want to say this definitively, but it's probably the most mechanically complex sports game that I've ever seen. Video games, anyway. I would say it's more mechanically complex than Smash. Maybe not Melee, but certainly Ultimate. I think it is a harder game than that. I think it's just an incredible thing. Actually, if I'm thinking of perfect games that there's not a ton you can add or take away to make it quote unquote better, I might put Rocket League in the running. Maybe not top 3, but maybe top 20 for sure. They do add modes in the game you can play hockey, you can do a mode where the ball turns into supercharge and it's heat seeking. They've got a lot of different stuff and it's always fun, but it's the best to just go back to the classic soccer. Not usually my thing, sports games, but this, absolute blast. Next, we've got Best Soundtrack. As you can imagine, I really didn't know what I wanted to pick for this one. There are so many by so many fantastic composers. A lot of them you hear spoken about at length. One that I don't hear mentioned nearly enough that I thought was a phenomenal soundtrack was that of Pentiment. What I personally consider Josh Sawyer's masterpiece in writing at this point. Pentiment is a sort of historical mystery, murder mystery, sort of like In the Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, which was cited as a major influence on the game. The soundtrack was done by a contemporary music group, early music group, I should say, which is a fun little oxymoron and anachronism, I guess, named Alchemy. And they did a phenomenal job. A lot of it is actual early music arrangements from Hildegard von Bingen, and I didn't double check the soundtrack. I don't want to just spout off names and be wrong. But you can find early music like Josquin des Prez, like Gesualdo, madrigals, chant, the various kinds of secular folk music that always trip me up because if you say this one thing, somebody's going to say, well, there's no isometer there or no isorhythm, so you can't say it's that. And then you come back with, you can't hear isorhythm. It is only an analytical technique. What are you talking about? And then everybody gets upset and suddenly you're not in the Discord anymore. It's a phenomenal soundtrack, and Alchemy does such an amazing job of getting high quality recording out of these period instruments. They are playing on period instruments. It's not like playing Bach on a contemporary piano or keyboard. They play the same instruments that existed in that time. You're going to hear lute, you're going to hear shawms, you're going to hear percussion of the day. And I think it's an incredible introduction because there isn't anything that's too esoteric or scholarly. It is a perfect set dressing, for the world, for the fiction, because the game takes place I don't quite remember the dates, but it takes place in a fictionalized Bavaria as the Catholic Church is losing its sort of influence. As the printing press is becoming invented, the scriptorium, the monks that work in the scriptorium are starting to lose work, the church is losing funding. They're not the de facto government that they used to be. It's set in that sort of time period. And it's a phenomenal game. I absolutely recommend it, wholeheartedly, no reservations. We did 2 episodes on the show previously with co-host Nick from Friday Night Gamecast, and I don't exactly remember them, but I remember them being a lot of fun and very engaging. I don't want to get too off the topic of soundtrack, but check it out. That's a soundtrack that is simply terrific, and if you have any interest in early music at all, I think it's worth checking out. Okay, we're moving on. And I'm looking at the clock, and I do not think we're going to get through this entire list, which, kind of figured, but hey, we'll still do a couple more. This one is going to be a quick one because I don't want this to be like a super negative sort of thing. Overrated, a game that I find very overrated. I've got to give this to Persona 5. Persona 5 Royal, both pretty much the same in this category. I think this is, in my opinion, this is the weakest of the modern trilogy of Personas, the 3, 4, and 5. It was billed as being very stylish. It's a stylish game. And at its core, I don't think it has much else to say. I think it's style over substance all the way through. I think it's a good game, don't get me wrong. I mean, the music is really good. The battle system is perfectly fine. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite. It's good. But man, that story was such a disappointment. It starts off so strong with the first palace, and then the second palace is still pretty darn good. And after that, it really just gets very derivative. And it turns into the whole cliche of adults are the evil ones and we're the kids and you gotta listen to us, man. And it sucks. I mean, it started so strong too. And part of me does wonder, and this is maybe not a story spoiler, but it might mildly spoil some things for you if you haven't played it yet. But I know that there were some regroupings and editing and changing things around in the background because the voice actor for Igor passed away. And then I think that's why they worked it into the story. I don't know that for sure. I haven't looked this up in years. but it would make sense considering how abrupt that change came in. I don't know, it's possible. But that's my vote, overrated game, IMO. Play 3. If you've never played 3, the remake is pretty good. 3 FES on PS2 is the best way. P3P portable, I would say don't play that first. Definitely don't play it first, but if you want to, it's fine. Okay, next there are 2 that we can do real quick because I think I've talked about them at length before. Overhated, a game that is overhated, Chrono Cross. I mean, honestly, Chrono Cross. My answers before would have been Final Fantasy VIII, maybe 13, but more so Final Fantasy VIII, and I still think that is true. I think that game is far overhated. I think it's just another classic example of bandwagoning and wanting to be part of the group and, join in on the fun on the internet. But Chrono Cross is that to the extreme. It is wildly overhated. I think that game is fantastic. It is easily one of my top 5 JRPGs on the PS1. At least right now. I haven't played all of them, obviously. It's terrific. I'm not saying it's the best, but I respect it immensely. And another one that is a super quickie that I've talked about at length before, favorite art style. This isn't just one game, but it's the diorama sort of look. Think Final Fantasy Tactics, War of the Lions. Well, and the PS1, they look basically the same. Final Fantasy Tactics and the original Trails. Trails in the Sky, first, second, and the third. FC, SC, and the third, I think they're technically called. That sort of look, that original diorama. I love that sort of toy box kind of look where it feels like you're manipulating the action figures into a fantastical, made-up narrative. I love that look. I will always love that look. Love it, love it, love it. And I think what I'll do now, I think I'll do 2 more and then do a couple of lightning round firsts. So 2 more. First, underrated. We did overhated. Let's do underrated. For me, my answer here is The Legend of Dragoon. This is a PS1 JRPG that was not made by Square. This is Sony's response in some ways to Final Fantasy. And unfortunately, its biggest flaw, one of its biggest flaws, I think its actual biggest flaw, is it suffers from a really poor localization on the official release. If you played this back in the day, you might not remember, but all of the official releases have a very clumsy and stilted, unnatural localization to English. It is just not very good. I haven't looked into who did the localization, obviously, and it's not my place to belittle them, but it just wasn't up to snuff. It wasn't up to quality. Now, since then, though, there have been fan patches that have fixed the translation. One of them I actually played last year, 2 years ago. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't turn it into a masterpiece, but the dialogue is significantly better. All of the writing is significantly better, well, dialogue and description-wise, with that localization patch, that fan patch, and you can easily find it by searching the internet. Legend of Dragoon, though, was an early example for me of a battle system that wasn't Final Fantasy in an RPG, in a JRPG, I should say. It has a sort of almost Super Mario RPG battle mechanic wherein you time your button presses when you're attacking to do combos. Now, where it's different from Super Mario RPG is that these combos, they're called additions in the game, as in addition to your regular attack. These additions are all unique not only to each character, but each character has several unique additions, different levels of them. And to unlock the next levels, you power up your previous levels. You can continue to power up your lower levels even after you've unlocked higher ones to make them even stronger, which in some situations, depending on the actual addition you're dealing with, could be beneficial. But these button presses, they're shown on screens sort of similar to Lost Odyssey, if you've ever played that. There is a square box and another square that sort of rotates from the very corners of the screen into the very center of the screen pretty quickly. It's not very slow, it's pretty involved, it's pretty fast-paced. I found them more forgiving as an adult. I remember them being just so hard as a kid, but kids, we were all a little dumb as kids, so that's probably the reason. This makes battles a lot more interesting and a lot more engaging. I was never ever one to buy into the idea that turn-based is boring, that it's just button mash, it's just tappa, tappa, tappa. I just don't really respect those arguments. I understand them, I just don't respect them. Like, come on, what are you doing? But if you do feel that way, if you and I do happen to disagree on that, and otherwise, we're good pals, but we disagree on that, I might say, hey, check out Legend of Dragoon, this might rev your engine a little bit. Outside of the additions, there's also a Dragoon mechanic. Now, this isn't Dragoon like Final Fantasy, but it does sort of maintain that dragon association. Dragoons in this game, honestly, it's kind of like Power Rangers. And I'm realizing between Power Rangers, Sailor Moon, Legend of Dragoon, it's no wonder that I like that kind of transformation thing. But each of these characters that you're going to meet, not every single party member, but a lot of your party members, I actually don't remember. Anyway, at some point, they will find a special gem that allows them to transform, and it gives them armor in battle. It's just a souped-up version of them as fighters. They get special abilities depending on who they are. It's their Dragoon form. And of course, there is an overarching plot with a corrupt empire that sprawls way beyond local and even national politics into superpower baddie, evil. You know how it goes. It's still a JRPG after all. It also features some of the chillest menu music I have ever heard. To this day, one of the best menu soundtracks, period. I use it now and then if I ever have to make like a quick announcement or, things like that. Or at least I used to. I haven't done it in a while. But it's playing now, or if it hasn't, it's going to right now, depending on whether I remember recording this as I'm editing. But really cool, really chill. Legend of Dragoon, give it a shot if you can. Check out the fan translation. Okay, one more. We're doing Best Combat. Best Combat. It's no secret that you all know that I'm a JRPG head. It's also no secret that I am a fighting game aficionado, even if I don't play nearly as often as I wish I could. So I'm gonna give you two answers here. They're gonna be a little quicker. One's gonna be maybe a little longer than the others, just because I have more familiarity with JRPGs. I'm gonna tell you about my favorite fighting game battle system and my favorite JRPG battle system, fighting game system. And to be clear, this might change, but this is sort of my go-to answer, and it hasn't been bested since, but my favorite combat system in fighting games is actually Dead or Alive, at least the one that's present in Dead or Alive 5 Last Round and 6. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Dead or Alive, you might know it as the booby one, the game with lots of girls and, jiggle physics and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. I have no problems with that, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. It's an actual good game is the thing. And it uses something called the triangle system. And the triangle system is very, very simple, but the way it crafts a battle flow becomes very, very interesting. It works like this. Strikes are going to beat throws. Throws are going to beat holds. Holds are going to beat strikes. So what does this mean? Punches beat throws, or I should say strikes. Punches and kicks. Strikes. Strikes beat throws. Pretty self-explanatory. If somebody goes to throw you and they get into their throw animation and you connect with a strike before that, it's going to beat out their throw. Their throw won't work. You won't have needed to block. Not that that would have done you any good. And you will have won that sort of little mini battle of rock, paper, scissors. Throws beat holds. Holds are parries, more or less. You can also think of it as blocking, but holds are kind of their own thing. Holds beat parry. So if you do a parry, which looks very similar to a block, kind of functions sort of similar, you try to do that or block in a regular fighting game, and somebody tries to throw you, you're going to get thrown. Just like in real life, if you stand there and try to block and somebody grabs you from the grundle, you're going to get thrown. It just happens. And lastly, holds beat strikes. This is my favorite part of the triangle system, and I imagine it's most folks' favorite part. It's what gives Dead or Alive that extra little spice, that extra pizzazz that makes it stand out just a little bit. Holds are performed by using the hold button, appropriately enough. Now, if I'm remembering right, I haven't played in a minute, but I believe the hold button can also function as a block button. So this game, and again, I might be wrong, I apologize if I am, it's been a minute. This game you can hold back to block as well as hold H to block. But if you press H plus some sort of direction, back and H at the same time, forward and H, down, back and H, maybe sometimes back, forward, and then H. Any one of these combinations are going to do a quick parry motion. It sort of looks like a throw animation-ish, but a little smaller and a lot quicker. And if you time that with an attack, you can potentially get a counter throw, a counter parry, counter strike. What makes this very cool is that the different strikes and throws have different levels to them. You can have low strikes. If you try to do a high parry, a high hold against a low strike, sorry man, that's it, you lost. But if you connect, if you read your opponent well enough and you know the situation, you know their gameplay, you know what they're about to do, you make that right call, they do a medium punch, you do a medium hold, now you've got the upper hand and you do a counter. It turns Dead or Alive into this very defensive-oriented game, very mental game, which I really appreciate. There's nothing wrong with the hyper-aggressive fighters, your Smash melees, your anime fighters, Marvel vs. Capcom, Darkstalkers, love them. Nothing wrong with that at all. But this aspect of Dead or Alive makes things a little bit more mental. It's not quite as slow and fundamentals heavy as Virtua Fighter. And to be fair, you're not going to be able to know every single hold for every single character, and you just can't. There is some guesswork involved, and sometimes you can only memorize like a couple holds for your character and know when they're going to work. You can't memorize like all 20 or so. That would just be a lot. So there is some guesswork to it, but when it works, man, is it so exciting. I love it so much. And now JRPG, Final Fantasy X-2, I have long said that this has been my favorite JRPG battle system. It has been ever since I played X-2 for the first time, probably in middle school as a kid. It is the pinnacle of the ATB battle system. And it's a complete response and diversion from 10 as well. 10 was strict turn-based, no ATB involved. Here's the order, it's person one's turn, it's their turn. You can sit there for as long as you want, thinking, making up your mind. 10.2 returns to the ATB system that was introduced, I think, in 4, I might be wrong on that, don't quote me, where each of your characters will have their ATB bar filled, sometimes faster or slower depending on the character, their stats, etc. And when that bar gets to the top, your command window pops up. Cool, now I get to choose. Do I want to throw an item? I've only taken 5 damage, maybe I should use this elixir? But while you're thinking, if you take too long, the opponent, who has a hidden ATB gauge, they might have already filled up, they might have already chosen. And guess what? If they have, they get to go. They get to go before you. So if you sit there and wait too long, suddenly, boom, you're done, you're toast, you're getting hit. So you've got to think on your feet. This is another antidote to the, quote, turn-based games are boring, end quote, argument. The ATB system forces you to be engaged and present and strategizing. Now, this is pretty standard ATB stuff. What makes 10.2 very, very cool is chaining and interruptions. You can chain your attacks. Let's say I am using Yuna and Riku. Pain is just chilling. Maybe she's not in the fight. Maybe she's, working on a summon. I always use her as a summoner or a black mage. She just strikes me as that. Anyway, let's say you're using Yuna and Riku. Yuna gets her attack up and ready way before Riku. She's just waiting. Instead of going right away, you can wait until Riku is ready as well. Then, if you know the relative time it takes for each person to get their attack off, depending on whether they're ranged, let's say a gunner using pistols, or melee, swordsman, things like that. If you can time it right and your hits connect, Yuna and Riku's that is, back to back, you get a chain bonus. That's a damage multiplier. And guess what? It works with magic too. If you can time it so you get a hit in right before or right after a magic spell hits, that chains. That creates some strategy. And here's something cool too, there's interruptions. If you happen to hit an enemy with a regular attack as they're running up to you, that stops them in their tracks momentarily. It doesn't cancel their attack out completely. This isn't like Grandia in that way, but it does stop them and might save you that second to get a potion out or to get that cure spell to pop or something. And if memory serves too, though, there are spells, skills, things that can cancel enemy attacks as they're coming, stagger them in that way. Again, it's been a minute since I've played, so that might be incorrect, but the interruption part is true. It's also what makes magic really risky in this game. That's maybe one of my points of friction about it, is that if you want to make a very magic-heavy character, you have to take that into account, and you're going to have folks on either side of them that can cover for them while they're sort of waiting. Because if they get hit while they're casting, that's going to halt their cast bar, and it's going to take a lot more time. Subsequently, though, same for the enemy. And because it's all in real time, that interruption can lead to really cool strategies for chaining damage, for buying time with the ATBs, for buying time for casting powerful spells or skills. Things can get very interesting. 10-2's combat is very fast-paced, very think on your feet, and extraordinarily customizable with the sphere grid system. Geez, I mean, that's how much time do we have? The sphere grid system, it's a job system, basically. It's what if job system was also magical girl transformations? And I think that's fucking cool. I think that is awesome. I love that. As I said, I usually like having Pain as a black mage. She's not the only one, but I always have her highest in the black mage. Yuna, I love having Yuna as a warrior. That's one of her core jobs for me. Because of the allusions to Tidus. She uses Tidus' sword Brotherhood. I think that's very cute. I think that's special. Riku's the wild card, man. And also my favorite of the trio, but that's besides the point. Riku is going to do the experimenting. If I want to do some wild and crazy stuff, Riku is my go-to. She's great for that kind of thing. And there are so many jobs too, so many opportunities for builds, not to mention the garment grid system. The garment grid system determines how many jobs each character can have, and it gives you bonuses when you switch between them. Think of it this way. Think of a line with 3 slots in it. As you're going from slot 1 to slot 2, you have to cross ground, right? Certain garment grids will make that transition going from 1 to 2 across that line. Certain grids will give you bonuses. So imagine a different shape. Imagine 2 diamonds like on top of each other. You've got some options here, right? Or here's something even better and less strange. Just imagine a grid, or a circle with a node in the middle that lets you go, to up, down, left, and right. Depending on which nodes you travel between, you are going to get different power-ups to your magic, to your strength, to your crit percent chance. It might let you use an ability that you otherwise haven't learned. There is so much opportunity for strategizing in 10-2, and that, combined with the fact that it is fast-paced, makes it an absolute joy to return to. It is not as customizable and does not promote the level of replayability that, Tactics has, for example, but it's still up there. It's still a lot of fun. What a great game. Ah, man, I did an essay on the show before. It was the first essay I did on the show. It's fine. It's, a solid 5 out of 10, but I want to do it on the main feed at some point. I just want an excuse to play that game all the way through again. Because as much as I love it, it is far from perfect. All right, a couple of firsts, lightning round, and then we're going to get on out of here. First JRPG, technically, Pokemon. Pokemon Red. Pokemon Red was my thing. Me, my cousin Tim, my cousin Jeremy, all 3 of us, every generation of Pokemon up until, probably late high school, I would imagine, would be the 3 of us playing. We would each choose 1 starter. We would each do 1 evolution of Eevee. We would each, get 1 of the legendary birds. We would do our trading that way. A lot of fun. Great memories. First system, I think I said it before, Sega Saturn. Got it as a random gift from an uncle of mine. No idea why. I was probably too young for it, but it shaped me. First console that I remember buying with my own money, this might be a PS3. I don't quite remember. It definitely wasn't a PS2. That came out, I had that whenever I was in 4th grade, I think. That's when Kingdom Hearts came out. It might have been a PS3. By the time those came out, I don't think I got them when they were brand new, and then I, got into music in high school. I kind of stopped playing games for a bit. Might have been a used PS3 at some point at the very end of high school. First game I remember pre-ordering? That is actually an excellent question, and I cannot really remember it. It might have been Final Fantasy 16. I have never been a pre-orderer. I am even still now not a pre-orderer. It's just not really my thing. Not a big pre-order guy. First multiplayer game that I remember having blasts and loads of fun with friends as a kid. That's got to be Pokemon Stadium or Smash. It has got to be one of those two. Those were on constant rotation whenever we were kids. Had loads of fun. There was a little bit of Genesis playing there too. I know we had Shaq Fu and, well, not me, but my good friend. I know we played Shaq Fu. I know we played the Power Rangers fighting game, but Smash 64, Pokemon Stadium, yeah, we many a late night when we did sleepovers. All right, I've got two more for you. First game I ever wrote a review for, and of course by that I mean, Steam store, online, stuff like that, crowdsource stuff. I actually went back onto Steam to check this. That was Disco Elysium back in May of 2020, which was also my choice for the game with the biggest personal impact, but when I, maybe another time, that story. And finally, the first game that really wowed me, that made me cry, that made me want to immediately start playing again, it's got to be Final Fantasy IX. I don't see what else it could have possibly been. It could have possibly been Kingdom Hearts. I have very strong memories of getting through that for the first time and what that felt like. But I'm almost positive I beat Final Fantasy IX before that, or at the very least got to the very end. I might not have beaten it. It was one of those two. And boy howdy, both of those. Even Pokemon didn't hit me quite as hard. Pokemon was great, don't get me wrong, but with Pokemon, you get to keep going. You can challenge the Elite Four as many times in a row as you want. It's kind of not over in that respect. Not to mention, you're still completing the Pokedex. You're still going, But those two, Final Fantasy IX, Kingdom Hearts 1, oh yeah, big time. And I think for today, that's going to about do it. I know we didn't get to all of them. I kind of figured that would be the case. There's a lot here, but I had a good time talking about this kind of thing. I like this sort of thing from time to time, like I said at the very beginning. I like learning a little bit more about the folks whose work I enjoy listening to, reading, etc., whatever they're doing. And hopefully you felt the same. And if you didn't, well, you still listened to the end, and that counts towards my metrics. So I think I come out on top here, and that's great. But thank you, as always. Stay tuned. We've got a lot of really cool stuff coming up on the show, as you may or may not know. At the time of recording this, we've still got Kena coming up. We've got the music of Yasunori Mitsuda. We've got Final Fantasy IV. We've got Earthbound. We've got a lot of really cool stuff coming up. If you'd like to connect with the show, feel free to follow us on social media on Blue Sky and Instagram. That's where we are. We also have a free Discord. You can join it. You can hang out with us there. If you've been enjoying the show, feel free to subscribe to us in your favorite feed of choice and drop a rating and or a review. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can check out the Patreon, where we do extra episodes, voting on episodes for the Patreon and for the main feed. Final Fantasy IV and Earthbound were both patron picks. You can read blogs there as I get them out, though those are a bit slower on the uptake. All of that and more, you can check that out at the link in the description or by going to patreon.com/pixelprojectradio. Thanks again, folks. We'll see you next time. I'd love to hear some of your favorites or your firsts. Come and drop them in the Discord. Let me know. All right, signing off for now. Take care, everyone.